Tonight, something was said about you in a quiet room where your name had never been spoken before, and the moment it left their lips, their brother stopped what he was doing, looked directly at them, and asked a question they were not prepared to answer. The person you love had carried your name into that room like a secret flame cupped between trembling hands. For days, perhaps longer, they had rehearsed how they might explain you. Not who you were on the surface. Not the simple facts another person could collect. They were trying to find words for the way your presence had changed the temperature of their inner world. But every sentence they imagined sounded too small, and every confession felt too revealing. That evening, rain moved softly against the windows. Their brother sat across the room, leaning back in an old chair, distracted by something on his phone. A lamp in the corner cast an amber circle across the floor, leaving the rest of the room in shadow. It should have been an ordinary conversation. Instead, the person you love stood near the doorway for several silent seconds, gathering the courage to cross an invisible line. Their brother noticed. "You've been standing there like you're about to announce something," he said, half smiling. "What's going on?" The person you love almost dismissed it. They nearly shrugged and said it was nothing. That was their old instinct to protect what mattered by pretending it did not matter at all. Yet something inside them had grown tired of hiding. The silence had begun to feel heavier than the truth. So they stepped into the room and sat down. "There's someone I need to tell you about." Their brother lowered his phone. In that small movement, the entire atmosphere changed. The person you love did not say your name immediately. They began with the beginning, or at least, the beginning as they understood it. They spoke about the first moment you caught their attention, not because you demanded to be seen, but because something about you felt different from the noise around them. They remembered a look in your eyes, a sentence you may not even recall, a brief moment when you showed kindness without expecting anything in return. Their brother listened quietly. At first, the person you love tried to sound casual. They kept their voice controlled and their descriptions careful. But the more they spoke, the more the truth escaped through the spaces between their words. Their brother could hear it in the way they paused before mentioning you. He could see it in the way their expression softened whenever a memory returned. Then he interrupted. "How long has this person mattered to you?" The question landed harder than expected. The person you love looked down at their hands. They had prepared to explain how they met you. They had prepared to describe your personality. They had even prepared to defend the complications surrounding the connection. But they had not prepared to measure the length of your importance. "Longer than I've admitted," they answered. That was the first truth. But it was not the one that changed everything. Their brother leaned forward, his elbows resting on his knees. He was no longer casually listening. He had heard something hidden in that answer, something the person you love had not intended to reveal so soon. "What happened between you two?" The rain seemed louder after that. The person you love turned toward the window, watching droplets gather and slide down the glass. In the reflection, they could see their own face, caught between regret and longing. They wanted to tell the story cleanly, with clear heroes and understandable mistakes. But what existed between you had never been simple enough for that. They explained that there had been moments when they wanted to move closer to you, followed by moments when fear made them pull away. They admitted they had questioned whether they were ready for something so emotionally real. They spoke about timing, pride, misunderstandings, and the invisible walls people build when they are afraid of being known too deeply. Their brother did not excuse them. "So you cared," he said, "and instead of saying it, you created distance?" The person you love flinched, not because his words were cruel, but because they were precise. "I thought distance would make it easier." "Did it?" They shook their head. That was the second truth. The distance had not made anything easier. It had made your absence louder. It had turned ordinary places into reminders. A song in a store, an empty passenger seat, a message typed and erased after midnight, everything seemed to carry an echo of what they had refused to face. They confessed that they had tried to convince themselves you would become a memory. They filled their schedule. They laughed at the right times. They acted untouched when others mentioned love. Yet their brother noticed the contradiction immediately. "You're talking about this person as if they're still standing right in front of you." The person you love looked up. For one breath, they had no answer. Because emotionally, you were still there. Not as a fantasy. Not as a perfect image untouched by reality. You remained in their mind as a living question: what might have happened if they had been brave at the right moment? Their brother stood and walked toward the window. He was quiet for so long that the person you love became uneasy. They had expected teasing, perhaps skepticism. They had even prepared for him to tell them to move on. Instead, he seemed to be piecing together details from the past: the distracted silences, the unexplained changes in mood, the way his sibling had become more guarded whenever anyone asked personal questions. Then he turned around. "Is this why you changed?" The person you love frowned. "What do you mean?" "You used to avoid anything serious. Then, all of a sudden, you started thinking about the future. You became more careful with people. You started questioning the way you handled things. I thought something had happened to you." Something had happened. You had. Perhaps you never realized the depth of your impact because much of it occurred beyond your sight. The person you love had not transformed in one dramatic instant. The change came quietly. It appeared in choices no one applauded, in apologies they finally offered, in habits they began to confront. Knowing you had held up a mirror to parts of them they could no longer ignore. But this revelation raised a question their brother could not let go. Does this person know any of that? The answer was written across their face before they spoke. No. Their brother's expression shifted. Not into anger. Into disbelief. "You mean this person changed the way you see yourself, and they don't even know?" "I didn't know how to say it." "That's not the same as not having the chance." The room became still. The person you love felt exposed, but not in the way they had feared. Their brother was not judging the existence of their feelings. He was confronting the cost of keeping them hidden. Then came the first unexpected turn. Their brother asked to see a picture of you. The person you love hesitated. Their hand moved toward their phone and stopped. There was something strangely intimate about allowing another person to see your face after protecting your existence for so long. It felt like opening a locked room. Finally, they found the photograph. It was not necessarily a perfect image. Maybe the lighting was uneven. Maybe you were not posing. Perhaps that was why they treasured it. You looked real, caught in a moment that carried the unmistakable warmth they could never fully describe. Their brother studied the screen. At first, he said nothing. Then his eyes narrowed slightly, as if recognition had stirred somewhere in his memory. "Wait," he murmured. "The person you love straightened." "What?" Their brother looked from the photograph to them and back again. "I've seen this person before." The sentence sent a quiet shock through the room. That was impossible, or so the person you love believed. They had never introduced you. They had barely spoken about you. Your worlds were supposed to be separate. Where? Their brother did not answer immediately. He was searching his memory, turning the phone slightly as though another angle might unlock it. Then he described a place. A day. A moment that had seemed insignificant at the time. Weeks or perhaps months earlier, he had seen someone who looked like you near a familiar location. He remembered because of something unusual. You had stopped to help a stranger who had dropped several belongings across the ground. While others passed, you knelt without hesitation and gathered each item. You did not appear impatient. You did not look around to see who was watching. His brother had noticed. He had not known your name then. The person you love stared at him, stunned. Of all the things he could have remembered, it was an act of kindness you may have forgotten moments after it happened. "That sounds like them," the person you love whispered. Their brother handed back the phone, but his expression had become thoughtful. "So this is the person." There was no mockery in his voice now. Only understanding. For the first time that evening, the person you love felt relief. It was small, but real. Someone close to them had seen a glimpse of what they saw in you. Someone else recognized the quiet goodness they had struggled to explain. Yet relief lasted only seconds. Because their brother asked another question. "If they're everything you're saying, why are you sitting here talking to me instead of talking to them?" The person you love opened their mouth, then closed it. The true answer was not timing. It was not distance. It was not confusion. It was fear. Fear that too much time had passed. Fear that you had already rewritten your life without them. Fear that an honest confession would arrive too late and become only another burden placed upon your heart. They admitted this in a quieter voice. "What if they don't want to hear from me?" Their brother crossed his arms. "Do you know they don't want to hear from you?" "No." "Then what do you know?" The person you love looked at the phone in their hand. They knew you had once cared. They knew there had been something genuine in the way you listened, something unguarded in the moments you shared. They knew they had felt your disappointment when they withdrew, even if you tried to hide it. But they did not know what remained inside you now. That uncertainty had become their prison. Their brother walked back to the chair but did not sit down. His tone softened. "You're afraid of the answer because it might hurt. But you're already hurting without it." Those words opened something. For months, the person you love had believed silence protected them from rejection. In truth, silence had only preserved the question. It had kept them suspended between hope and regret, unable to step forward or fully let go. They looked again at your picture. Then the emotional energy in the room shifted once more. Their brother revealed that he had noticed them checking their phone repeatedly over the past few weeks. He had seen messages opened and closed, conversations searched for, old photographs revisited. He had assumed they were dealing with something private, but now he understood. "You've been thinking about reaching out." The person you love nodded. "Every day." "Then why haven't you?" "Because I don't want to come back into their life with empty words." This was different. Their brother heard the seriousness beneath it. The person you love did not merely want to say they missed you. They wanted to approach you with something stronger than longing. They wanted to take responsibility. They wanted to explain what had happened without blaming circumstances or hiding behind confusion. For the first time, they said aloud what they had privately decided. "If I speak to them, I have to be honest about everything." Their brother's gaze sharpened. "Everything?" The person you love went still. There it was, the hidden layer beneath the entire conversation. Until that moment, they had spoken about fear, distance, and regret. All of it was true. But it was not complete. There was another reason they had stepped away, something they had never told you, something they had carried alone because they believed revealing it would change how you saw them. Their brother sensed the omission. "What aren't you telling me?" The person you love stood and began pacing slowly. The floor creaked beneath each step. Outside, the rain had eased, leaving only the steady sound of water dripping from the roof. They stopped near the doorway, the same place where the conversation had begun. "There was something happening in my life when I pulled away," they said. "Something I thought I had to handle alone." Their brother waited. The person you love took a deep breath and finally revealed part of it. At the time you were growing closer, they had received news that disrupted their sense of stability. It was connected to their family, their responsibilities, and a promise they had made long before meeting you. They feared that drawing you nearer would entangle you in a situation you had not chosen. So they made a decision for you without asking you. They withdrew. They told themselves they were protecting you. But as they explained it to their brother, the excuse sounded different. Protection without honesty had become another form of control. By refusing to let you choose, they had taken away your right to understand. Their brother's response was firm. "You should have trusted them with the truth." "I know." "No, you know it now. Back then, you decided they couldn't handle it." The word struck deeply. The person you love remembered your patience. The times you gave them space without demanding explanations. The way you noticed their heaviness and asked whether they were all right. You had offered them openings. They had answered with distance. Now they understood how that distance may have made you question your worth. Their face changed. "I made them think they weren't enough." Their brother said nothing. Because that possibility was the wound beneath every other wound. The person you love could bear their own regret. What they struggled to bear was the thought that their silence had taught you the wrong lesson, that you had interpreted their fear as indifference, their disappearance as rejection, their unfinished words as evidence that you had imagined the connection. "No," they whispered, shaking their head. They can't keep believing that. Their brother watched them reach a turning point. What do you want them to know? The answer came without rehearsal. That it was real. The person you love's voice broke slightly, but they continued. That they didn't misunderstand me. That every time I almost said something and stopped, there was more behind it. That I noticed everything, the way they tried to make me feel safe, the way they understood when I couldn't explain myself, the way they never asked me to become someone else. Their brother remained silent as the confession gathered force. I want them to know I didn't leave because they were too much. I left because what I felt was more than I knew how to carry. The room seemed to hold those words. And then their brother did something the person you love did not expect. He walked toward them, placed a hand on their shoulder, and said, "Then stop making me the first person to hear this." It was not permission. It was a challenge. The person you love looked down at their phone again. Your conversation was still there. Old messages. Quiet evidence of a bond neither time nor silence had fully erased. Their thumb hovered above your name. For a moment, they imagined every possible outcome. You might ignore the message. You might answer with caution. You might tell them that the pain had changed you. Or you might reveal that some small part of your heart had also been waiting for the truth. Their brother returned to his chair, giving them space. "Whatever happens," he said, "tell them the part you were too afraid to say." The person you love began typing. The first sentence disappeared. They tried again. Another line vanished. Then they stopped attempting to sound perfect. They let honesty replace control. They wrote that they had spoken about you for the first time. They admitted that saying your name aloud had forced them to confront what they had avoided. They wrote that there were things you deserved to know, things about why they left, what they felt, and what they had discovered during the silence. But before they could send it, their brother suddenly spoke. "Wait." The person you love turned. Their brother's face had changed again. The earlier recognition in his eyes had returned, only now it carried greater urgency. "There's something else about that day I saw them," he said. "Something I didn't tell you." The unsent message remained glowing on the screen. "What happened?" Their brother leaned forward. "After they helped that stranger, I heard them talking to someone. I didn't understand it at the time, but they said your name." The person you love froze. Their brother remembered the exact tone of your voice. You had not spoken their name casually. You had spoken it as though you were trying to explain a loss without revealing how deeply it had affected you. And then he repeated the final sentence he had heard you say that day, the sentence that made the person you love's hand begin to tremble above the unsent message. They said they were still waiting for one honest answer from you. The word settled over the room like the final note of a song that refuses to disappear. They said they were still waiting for one honest answer from you. For a long moment, the person you love could not breathe. Not because those words brought fear, but because they carried hope they had long believed was gone. They replayed the sentence over and over in their mind, wondering how many nights you had quietly carried that unanswered question. They realized that while they had been protecting themselves from the possibility of rejection, you had been living with the weight of uncertainty. Their brother broke the silence with gentle honesty. You both lost time because neither of you had the whole story. Those words did not erase the past, but they transformed it. The past was no longer an unchangeable wall. It became a bridge waiting for someone brave enough to take the first step. The person you love looked at the message still waiting on their screen. For the first time, they stopped asking themselves whether it sounded perfect. Instead, they asked one simple question. Is it true? Every word they had written came from the deepest place inside their heart. There were no excuses hidden between the sentences. No attempts to rewrite history. Only gratitude, regret, honesty, and hope. With one quiet breath, they pressed send. The room became completely still. There was no dramatic music. No lightning. No impossible miracle. Only the quiet courage of someone who had finally chosen truth over fear. Their brother smiled softly. That, he whispered, is the strongest thing you've done in a very long time. The minutes that followed felt unusually long. Neither of them spoke. The rain had stopped completely, and the clouds outside slowly drifted apart, allowing silver moonlight to spill across the window. It felt as though the world itself had taken a deep breath. The person you love wasn't waiting for an instant reply anymore. Something inside them had already changed. For the first time in a long while, they no longer carried the burden of unspoken words. Whatever happened next would be built upon honesty instead of silence. Then, just as they placed the phone beside them, the screen gently lit up. One new message. Their heart raced. Their hands trembled. Slowly, they opened it. It was not a long message. It did not attempt to solve every misunderstanding in a single moment. Instead, it carried the quiet power that only genuine words can hold. I've been waiting for the truth, not perfection. Thank you for finally telling me. The person you love closed their eyes. A single tear slipped down their cheek, not from sadness, but from relief. Months of unanswered questions began to dissolve. The distance that once felt impossible suddenly seemed crossable. There would still be conversations. There would still be healing. Trust would grow one honest step at a time. But something extraordinary had already happened. The silence had ended. Their brother watched quietly before placing a reassuring hand on their shoulder. I think, he said with a warm smile, both of you needed this more than either of you realized. The person you love nodded. I thought I had lost everything. You almost lost hope, his brother replied. There's a difference. Those words remained with them. Because hope has a remarkable way of surviving beneath disappointment, waiting patiently for truth to uncover it again. As the night grew quieter, the person you love stepped outside beneath a sky filled with stars. The cool breeze carried away the heaviness they had carried for so long. For the first time in many seasons, the future no longer felt frightening. It felt open. It felt possible. It felt filled with conversations that had not yet happened, smiles that had not yet been shared, forgiveness that had not yet been spoken, and memories that had not yet been created. Sometimes the greatest miracle is not that two hearts find each other. Sometimes the greatest miracle is that they find the courage to stop hiding. My beloved child, if this story has touched your heart, remember this gentle truth. Love grows strongest where honesty is welcomed. Fear may delay beautiful moments, but it does not have to define the ending. When kindness replaces pride, when understanding replaces assumptions, and when truth is spoken with humility, even long seasons of silence can become the beginning of something unexpectedly beautiful. May your heart always have the courage to speak with compassion. May your path be filled with people who value sincerity over perfection. May peace replace every unnecessary fear, hope rise above every disappointment, and may your life be surrounded by wisdom, patience, and genuine love that encourages the very best within you. May every door meant for your good open at the right time, and may every lesson prepare you for the joy waiting ahead. Thank you for spending these moments together. If this fictional inspirational story encouraged your heart, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who may need a reminder that honest words can change everything. Until our next story, may peace, hope, and light remain with you always.